We're now on video 6 of our Spanish pronunciation explanations, and I just want to round up with a few extra bits and pieces. We've actually learnt the bulk of things really, but there's a few things that I haven't mentioned. One of them is where the U can be silent in a Spanish word. We've actually also already looked at the third example here, which is the QU combination. The U is silent. And the example was queso for cheese. It's not queso but queso. There are two other places the U is silent, and it's between the GE and the GI. The reason is because if we have a GE and GI combination, you'll remember that they are pronounced ge. But sometimes we want to write ge, which ends up sounding lighter than that, but that's the basic idea, ge. How do we do it? We put the letter U there to indicate that the G should be hard, not the H sound, but the other G sound. So an example is the word for Michael in Spanish, which is Miguel. Notice that when I actually say it, the G does that lighter thing that we mentioned right at the beginning, Miguel. The G-U-I combination, here's a very common example, siguiente. This is based on the verb seguir, to follow, and siguiente is following or next. A lot of people mispronounce it siguiente, but the U is silent. It's there to make sure that the G is not pronounced H. Siguiente. Okay, so these are the instances where the U is silent. And there's one other thing to say about the U, which is linked to this G business that I said, but there are other things to say about it. And that is sometimes we want to write gue or gui. Not very often, but there are words with gue or gui. How can we do it? Because if we've got a GUE or a GUI, it should be pronounced gi. And the way we do it is to put two little dots over the letter U. A nice word here is vergüenza. It means shame. It means shame as in embarrassment. Oh, que vergüenza, I'm so embarrassed. Or que vergüenza, how shameful, how shocking. Shame in that sense. It's got a very strong content to the meaning of the word vergüenza. But we have to put the two dots over the U, otherwise it's vergüenza, and the word is vergüenza. Another example is not a basic word. The word is agua, water. But when you're talking to children particularly, you often put diminutives on the ends of words. Ita and ito are words that make a softer or a smaller or a more childish word. And you often hear a parent saying to a child, ¿Quieres agüita? Which means something like, do you want a little bit of water? Agüita. Well, if you were going to write that word, you would have to put two dots over the U. Otherwise you've got agüita, agüita. So that finishes the G and the U combination business. And now I want to look a little bit about how vowels run together. And I think this is the final key, or at least the beginnings of looking at something which is a phenomenon in Spanish speech which creates a lot of problems for us. First of all, let's look at where two vowels are next to each other, but it's the same vowel. An example of this is the verb to read. Now, everything we've learnt so far about strong vowels and syllables and so on will tell us that it's a two-syllable word. The root is le and the ending is er. But we have to keep it as those two syllables, so that gives us leer. Of course, the English way of reading is to, when we have two sounds together, we would never maintain them. We would turn it into a different sound, like leer or something. But this is leer. Another example of where you've got the same single sound. Va a hablar. It means he or she, or the formal you, but let's say he for now. He is going to speak. And it's got va a hablar. What happens? That sound is maintained, but what actually happens at speed is that it becomes bablar. The a is maintained, but the quicker the speech, the less likely you'll hear the different sounds. The same with leer, it's going to become leer. Me gusta leer. You can hear it, but it's very slight. And this is the key. I've given you rather stilted examples in a way of where you've got the same letter combining, but it's the key to hearing Spanish speech and understanding it at speed. It's not easy. You've got all the different factors we've mentioned. You've got the fact that the consonants become weaker, so we're listening out for consonant sounds because that's the most important thing to us. They're lightening off. Remember the example of ahogado, where the consonants are lightening off and we've just got the vowels. And then you've got the way that the vowels combine. And as I say, the examples I've given you are perhaps stilted, but actually they're the sort of things, the sort of combinations that exist in the language. First of all, we've got where is, which is ¿dónde está? ¿Dónde está? We've got the E of donde and the E of está, not distorting in any way, but running together. And the beat, of course, is on the final syllable as marked by the accent. So that goes as ¿dónde está? And then, of course, I've thought of a girl's name beginning with A, Alicia. Again, an inevitable running together, giving us ¿dónde está Alicia? ¿Dónde está Alicia? So we want to hear ¿dónde está Alicia? And what we hear is ¿dónde está Alicia? And again, the sound, the tone, making the questioning sound, possibly the fact that ¿dónde is at the beginning, we can hear that fairly clearly. We should get the feeling, the rhythm of the sentence as much as the individual words, which we're not going to hear that clearly because of the vowels. Another example with the o of what's going to happen. We've got duermo, which means I sleep. I don't actually sleep 8 hours mostly, but here I've got an example of duermo 8 horas. Wouldn't it be nice if the Spanish said duermo 8 horas? But of course they're not going to say that. They're going to say duermo 8 horas. Duermo 8 horas, duermo 8 horas. O, the silent H, of course, not counting as anything that would block the flow of vowels. Well, I've actually got to the end of specific examples. There are loads more. I've really summarised into the main points. But your task now is whenever you see this wonderful written code that explains to you how the Spanish sound should be, what the language is, you can start to understand how it links together the rhythm, the consonants, the vowels, and the forming together of sounds. Giving language, as I said, like music, giving it its shape, its sound. It's a hearing process. The other thing you've got to do, as well as looking at the written word and working it out, is hearing. Television, radio, all the usual things, eavesdropping. But if you understand these basic concepts, then I think that's given you, I hope anyway, it's given you a good foundation for understanding the pronunciation of this wonderful language called Spanish.